Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to documentary filmmaker Joseph Dorman, whose latest movie is Sholem Aleichem, Laughing in the Darkness. Stick around. As the good book says, if you spit in the air, it lands in your face. So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview. You know, MrMedia.com, MRmedia.com. Stop by and check it out. There are more than 900 archived celebrity and pop culture interviews for your listening pleasure. The show is brought to you today by Audible. Audible is offering Mr. Media listeners a free audiobook download and a 14-day trial offer to give you a chance to check out their very cool service. I love listening to books on tape. If you've never tried it before, actors or sometimes the authors themselves read to you. It's great for the commute, the beach, or even unwinding before bed. You can choose a free audiobook from Audible's enormous library of titles, including 2 by Sholem Aleichem, including Tevye the Milkman and The Story of Tevye the Dairyman. Here's an excerpt.
A man slaves, works himself to the bone, is ready to lie down and die. It shouldn't happen to the worst enemy of the Jews. Suddenly, don't ask me how or why, it rains gold on him from all sides. In a word, Revach ve'atzolo yamod laYehudim, just like it says in the Bible. That's too long a verse to translate, but the general gist of it is that as long as a Jew lives and breathes in this world and hasn't more...
You could also download The Profiler, written by famed criminal profiler Pat Brown and yours truly, which Pat will read to you personally. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/radio. Again, that's audibletrial.com/radio for your free audiobook. Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of 16-year-old boys in heavy fake beards, all speaking in high school Yiddish accents, in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. I owe my first kiss to Sholem Aleichem, and my second, too. The first was Loy Neville. The second, not long after, was Diane Dunn. Now, both occurred backstage during dress rehearsals for the North Brunswick Township High School production of Fiddler on the Roof. Surely you've heard of it. Seth Kaufman, then 15, played Tevye, a revelatory performance that no one who saw it ever forgot. And Phyllis Lyons played one of Tevye's daughters, and maybe you've seen her since then in The Bridges of Madison County, or more recently in episodes of House or Rizzoli and Isles. And parenthetically, she also married actor Adam Arkin. But I digress. I didn't know Loy or Diane before that. I was in 8th grade, they were in 9th. But I was never the same after that. These two pretty girls talked to me, they laughed at my jokes, and their friendship gave me a self-confidence I never knew before. We never dated, but I walked one or the other of them home pretty much every day after that. And it's all because I worked on the backstage crew of a high school production of Fiddler on the Roof. So for that reason alone, I feel an honest debt to the storytelling talents of legendary Jewish writer Sholem Aleichem. That's the main reason I'm pleased to help spread the word of a new documentary film, Sholem Aleichem, Laughing in the Darkness, by writer, director, and producer Joseph Dorman. The movie, which will be shown at the Toronto, San Francisco, and Jerusalem Jewish Film Festivals this summer, is narrated by actor Alan Rosenberg and features the voices of Peter Reigert and Rachel Dratch, among others. Well, as King David said, I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. So Joseph Dorman, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you for having me. I'd also like to say, just real quickly, Bob, that we are also opening theatrically in New York on July 8th.
Oh.
And then we'll be going into theaters across the country soon after that. So hopefully it'll be coming to an art theater near you.
Excellent. And you've got a website people can come and probably check for that information?
Absolutely. They can go. Probably the best thing to do is go to the website for the movie, which is www.sholemalechemthemovie.com. And there are many spellings of Sholem Aleichem, so it's SHOLEM and that will have a list of screenings. You can also connect to the official Facebook page, which will also have news of other events, etc. So that's the best way to keep track of what's happening with the film.
Yeah, I have to admit, I hadn't actually considered the spelling of Sholem Aleichem since I was a teenager, so I had to keep going back and checking. Did I get it right? Did I get it right?
Well, it is one of the frustrating things because because it's transliteration, there are a number of spellings. Mm-hmm. So I stuck with one, and there it is.
Got it. Yeah, and then plus when you actually say it, you have to remember to get a little bit of phlegm there at the end on the last syllable. So
that's right.
Could you tell? By the way, could you tell the people who did or did not know how to say it properly because they either did or did not get the phlegm?
You can definitely often tell the difference between a Jewish and non-Jewish pronunciation of Sholem Aleichem. Yeah. The interesting thing and something that I didn't know, and a common mistake that's made, which, as I say, I made as well until I was corrected, is that because Sholem Aleichem is a pen name and means several things, basically peace be upon you, but also became a common greeting, hello and goodbye as well. But because that was the pen name of a man named Sholem Rabinowitz, you can't ever refer to Mr. Aleichem or Aleichem. It's always got to be Sholem Aleichem. And someone pointed out it's as if you were talking about Howdy Doody and said Mr. Doody. So that's the one thing I learned, even though I come from a tribe.
I think just getting you to say Mr. Doody was just worth the whole price of admission here today.
I'm glad.
So tell me something about you first. First of all, I'm asking this for a reason, but how old are you, Joe?
I'm 53.
All right. And I'm guessing Jewish?
I'm Jewish,
okay.
Yes.
And do you remember the first time that you saw a production or had any involvement, per se, in Fiddler on the Roof?
I can't pinpoint it as exactly as you can. I was never in a production of Fiddler on the Roof. I must have seen it when I was a kid. I have a memory of seeing the movie, going to see the movie. Actually, it's funny. You're the first person who's asked me that. And I all of a sudden flashed on a memory of I'm from Detroit originally, of being outside the movie theater, waiting to be picked up as a kid after having seen Fiddler on the Roof. So, it's one of those things that for so many people, it's sort of part of the air you breathe. You don't even, it's like the Bible at this point. It's there. It was always there. You can't imagine a time it wasn't there.
Right. And what year did the movie come out?
I think the movie, it was 73.
Okay.
Or 71. I always forget this. But I think actually it was 71 because the Broadway musical was 64.
It was, and that explains it. I wasn't sure of the timing of the film, but I knew it was a very formative time for me. I'm just a couple years younger than you, and that was, that's that point where you're, everything that you encounter hits you, and I remember the film, and then suddenly we're doing the play, and I still have contact with a number of the people who were involved with that, and that was well, as I said in the introduction. I didn't mean to hijack your introduction, by the way, so much as just to explain why this is such a touchstone. When did you get connected to the idea of doing a documentary?
It was about a little over a decade ago, actually, and I was looking around for another project, and a friend of mine, who's actually a professor of Yiddish, a man named Jeffrey Chandler, had initially suggested the idea of making a film about Sholem Aleichem's immigration to America, because he was, unlike so many in the Jewish community, a failed immigrant to America. And it was a very interesting story. Jeff had actually curated an exhibition about it. And I, as I really knew very little about Sholem Aleichem, except that he was the man behind Fiddler on the Roof. And I didn't have a particularly strong reaction to it. I thought, let me see. What I did know of Sholem Aleichem actually probably made me more skeptical than anything else. And then, of course, the project grew. The more I learned about him, the more I read his stories, the more I realized I had stumbled onto a genius and not some folksy humorist, the person I had thought him to be, and that not only was he a great writer, but his work conjured an entire world that was enormously formative for who I was, and yet it was a world I knew very, very little about. So that was a very, very powerful experience for me.